Yeah.
Columbus was the town also that Tim Woods got his finger bitten off.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I know that happened in that town. And he continued to wrestle, right?
Yeah. Well, he was doing it. They didn't do the challenge, the fan challenge anymore, because Tim was a shooter, amateur wrestler,
Yeah.
and they would do the deal where to make the business more legitimate. They said, Mr. Wrestling has this open challenge. If you can go 5 minutes or 10 minutes with him or whatever, we'll give you X amount of dollars. And one night, because Columbus is, what's the Army base over there? Fort Benning?
Fort Bragg, I think.
No,
Fort Benning.
that's North Carolina. Fort Benning.
Yeah. It's where they got the Rangers, yeah.
Yeah. You're one of those guys, and a bunch of his buddies were there, and I'm sure alcohol was involved. And the guy couldn't do anything with Woods as a wrestler, so when Tim tried to crossface him, he had his finger there, and the guy just bit his finger off the second knuckle. And needless to say, made Tim a little pissed. And I think I even heard that he whipped the mask off so that he would, because it was going south and beat the shit out of the guy, but he still didn't have no finger. So
I could never understand Tim's dealings with the mask, because sometimes in one town he would wear the mask and he would be wrestling number 1. And then the next night it would be Tim Woods.
Yeah.
And then the next night he'd be back as wrestling number 1 under a mask. So I don't know if Tim really knew who he was.
Well, and they did the deal one time when he, much earlier, I guess late 60s, maybe early 70s, where he got the NWA World Championship match, but before the match, since if he won, they needed to know who the champion was, the NWA, so they made him take the mask off, and that's when he revealed himself. So then, I think they were going to take it off of him and maybe keep it off, but the people were so enamored of Mr. Wrestling in the white mask, like American version of El Santo, they said, okay, we know who he is, but we don't care. We like, so he Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods.
Yeah, that baffled me a little, because that was happening when I was first going down there. So
it was a little strange.
Yeah.
One of the things you did when you first came to Georgia was the Cobra Hold Challenge. $1,000 to anybody that could.
Well, one of the first things when I came to Georgia, I looked around and there was 15 mask guys there. So, and Ole had approached me with that. He says, we got too many damn mask guys in here. He says, your objective is going to come down and you're going to eliminate one by one all the masked men in the territory and expose them and run them out of the territory. And it's going to come down to you in wrestling number 2. Because he's a big baby face. Yeah. You guys are going to make money. I said, okay.
There you go. That's what you work toward.
Yeah.
That's what you need to know.
And he would do his promos. I see what you're doing, and eventually it's going to come down to you and I. And my promos would be, one's gone, this guy's gone, your friend's gone, this guy's gone, and eventually you're going to be gone. And I'm going to be standing here, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And let me just read your mind. And every time that you started wrestling after those promos played, regardless of who you were in the ring with, the people would be chanting 2.
Oh, yes.
2.
2 was
because you had you made the people call for the match, a la the way that Bill Watts did with and Bill Dundee did with Midnight Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
You made the people call for the match before you gave them the match, and that way they felt it was their idea and they really wanted to see it there.
Yeah, and sometimes I would be standing off stage, just behind the curtains, peeping out when he was in the ring, and of course he'd be alerted by somebody, and then the camera would pan over, and then eventually he started doing the same thing. So it was projected way down the road. There was still a lot of masked men in there. And we even brought in a couple fake wrestling too.
Yeah, just to...
just to add salt to the wound. And eventually it got to the point where, we had the matches, and a lot of people made statements that they didn't like wrestling with 2, but I enjoyed it. I think he trusted me, I trusted him. I knew he was a professional. He was just there to make money and to do the best he could do, and I was the same thing.
He'd been in the business 30 years, and he was a pro, and he knew what to do. And I think the thing that held him back as Johnny Rubberman Walker was just facially, 2 always looked old when he was young.
Yeah.
And he was kind of nondescript, but athletic, and he knew how to work. And when he put that mask on, then that gave him an aura of mystery, and it accentuated his strengths and eliminated his weaknesses.
And he did a very serious, hardcore babyface interview. I got some advice from not only Boris Malenko, but early in my career, Wahoo McDaniel, who was a big babyface at the time, said, be careful what you say because the people are listening. If you're a babyface, you can't make outlandish statements and not back them up. You'll lose face.
Yeah.
A heel can go a little bit overboard. But I often did in my interviews, I was deliberate, and I would try to put myself in a fan's position. And there again, I talked about this recently. It's silly for me to go out there and say, I'm going to go tonight in New Jersey, and Jim Cornette, I'm going to break every bone in your leg. Well, if I don't do it, I lose face. And it's probably not logical I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But Jim, you and I are going to get in that ring. And at the end of the night, I guarantee you, you're going to be hurt. I'm still going to get the point across.
But it's open-ended.
Yeah.
It could be hurt in some kind of way.
And what hurt is to you might not be to him or her. Oh my goodness, he's going to break my fingers. He's going to break my wrist. He's going to break my knee. He's going to twist my neck.
And
so it's open.
And two had that fire under that mask, and he'd look at the camera. And when we did a program with him in Louisiana, there was a belt whipping involved where the loser, you know, we'd whipped him with the belts and then came back where the loser got 5 lashes each or whatever. And he looked at the camera and he said, and Cornette, I'm going to get you too. And by the time I finish with you, you won't know whether to walk, talk, or crawl. I mean, and people got with it. So every time we'd be wrestling another team or on television with job guys, the people would be chanting, two.
Oh, yeah.
Two. And
I can still
Bobby
see.
Eaton at
I can
first
still see his head.
Oh, and his head would twitch. Bobby Eaton at first didn't know. He thought they were boo. He said, that's the way they boo down here. Two had the $1 million knee lift.
Oh my goodness.
And Bobby Eaton took such good bumps for it, right? That even Two, the old pro that he was, he got himself caught up in the moment. He loved the bumps that Bobby would take. Because one time he'd hit Bobby with the knee lift and Bobby'd fly over the top rope without touching anything. And next time he'd take some kind of corkscrew bump and land on his face in the ring. And next time he'd do something else.
Yeah.
So Two all of a sudden realized after the first week or two of the program, he's hitting Bobby Eaton with his finish 3 or 4 times in the match, and we're still winning.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't get him to hit anybody with a knee lift after that. But going back to the Cobra hold.
I got hit with a bunch of stiff.
Yeah. And it was good. It was there, right?
They were there. And you had to be alert, boy.
But that's where I was going with the Cobra hold, just the idea that you got a hold. He got the knee lift over because when he hit it, somebody went down, the $1 million knee lift. You got the Cobra hold over because you paid people if they could even escape it.
$10,000 bounty.
And that's the way you got to hold over. It had to work consistently, first against an underneath guy, then against a middle card guy. Finally, when you got to the top guys, they would have hope, and you might have to just pull that little heel tactic.
Yeah.
And,
or you would roll them over into the. They never broke it. The referee would break it periodically.
Yeah.
And if Andre the Giant, said, I'm not breaking the hold. So if Andre can't get out of it, who's going to get out of it?
Because there's only so many holds and moves you can do that don't just cripple somebody. So if you prostitute all of them.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you super kick somebody 75 times and don't win the match and don't beat anybody with it. Then
or drop kick somebody, fly and drop kick somebody 25 times.
Or whatever the case may be.